Hi everyone, welcome to my Craft Source YouTube channel. Today I've got Corbin here with me.
Hi.
And we're going to go over some back to school personalization using vinyl, either the adhesive or the heat transfer vinyl. We're actually not sure yet what's going to work, so this is going to be a troubleshooting video where we try out what's going to work in each situation. So when going back to school, kids are getting all their cool back to school supplies, their pencil boxes, their lunch boxes, their water cups, and everybody wants to personalize it. But how can you personalize it, and what is going to work best for each application? Well, hopefully by the time we're done with this video, you'll have a clear understanding of what works and what doesn't. We're going to attempt using heat transfer vinyl on a lunchbox. Now, it's definitely a heat sensitive material, and I don't know if this is actually going to work, so we'll find out soon. Have you ever had any luck? Have you even tried it yet?
Oh, well, no, I haven't tried
No.
it, but I am predicting that this will not be, I'm predicting it'll be a flop.
That's right.
I don't think it will work.
Yeah, and let's see what this says. The material in it is polyethylene foam, so I mean that just sounds flammable to me.
Absolutely.
But I've seen where people have been doing it, and I want to figure out how they have been doing it successfully, or if they even have had success doing it.
And I wonder if they have a fire extinguisher close when they do it.
Yeah, that might have been something we should have put on our supplies list before making this video. Alright, so to begin with, we've got some StarCraft Magic's Spectrum, and we're going to go ahead and weed this. So this is an adhesive vinyl. And then we've also got our Easy Weed Beach Blue that we're gonna weed away as well. So I'm gonna get y'all a little closer so you can catch us weeding. I'm gonna get Corbin to start weeding away for us. Okay, so now that we've got all these weeded, now we're just going to do some trial and error. So my first thought with these lunch boxes is I want to use an adhesive vinyl on the inside. So we're just going to give that a try with one of these small stickers and see if that sticks. Because it kind of feels like it might have a coating, or be that plasticky fabric that won't actually let anything stay stuck to it. So. Well,
If you don't mess with it, it seems like it'll stay on. But
so if you don't mess with it, but if you have a 5-year-old who loves to sit there and pick at anything,
yeah.
then it's not really going to hold up for them. But if you're too scared to try to do the heat transfer vinyl, or if you don't have a heat press, or just don't want to go through all that effort of a heat transfer vinyl, I would say that this would be a good temporary solution for you. The other thing is whenever you put vinyl on, it is recommended to wait for the adhesive to bond 100% after you apply pressure to it. So in 24 hours, it might be wise to come back and recheck this, and it might actually have bonded even better than what we're getting right now. So I'm going to peel this off because we're going to try to see what happens when we put heat transfer vinyl on here.
Michelle, would you think it would make the most sense to try to use the iron on this one?
Well, let's try to use the iron to begin with, because it does look like it would fit the best. And what I would recommend is the iron being on its lowest setting to begin with. So I'm just going to go grab a pair of scissors and cut off a little design here. So I found a pair of scissors. We're going to trim this to size to fit inside our lunchbox. I'm just going to start with the small one to begin with. And I'll let you, Corbin, place it in there to what you think looks best. So what I would do is I would make sure I'm covering that with a Teflon sheet just to give it some extra protection. And this is just the easy weed, so let's see how this is gonna work. And when you're using an iron, you don't want to do back and forth movements. You want to make sure you're doing one steady pressure. So I would just pick it up. Let's just double check, make sure nothing's melting. I don't even think that's on. Our iron's not even on.
You lied.
Yeah, we got to turn this. So when I said lowest setting, I didn't mean off. I meant like the synthetic setting. All right, so while our iron's preheating, we'll go ahead and try our easy press. So what I'm gonna do is actually try to invert this so that way we can get a better press on it without the zipper melting, because the zipper is usually made out of plastic. And then I'm gonna grab a heat transfer pillow, a towel, or any kind of fabric that you might have laying around. And try to get a nice flat surface here. Teflon sheet. All right, so this is the easy press at 335. All right, now I lift up. All right, see, that's already starting to melt. So the easy press at 335 is a no-go. And we barely even set that on there for long. So, you know, I really don't see how the heat press at all is going to be an option unless we turn it down to the lowest setting that Easy Weed could handle. So you can see here where it did melt the plastic a little bit. Let's see what happens when we peel this off. Hey, but in hindsight, the Easy Weed is bonded.
Just gotta get past the stinkiness.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and let Miss Corbin. She helped me out in the beginning. Thank you for showing up and demonstrating the easy press failure.
And the iron that was not on. So.
See you around, Corbin. See ya. So here is the results using the Cricut Easy Press. And we only did a burst of heat on this at 335 for about 3 seconds. And lo and behold, I did notice that it began to melt. So if you look closely, you can see where this fabric has got this dimpled, and you can see where our carrier sheet was from our Easy Weed. However, our Easy Weed is adhered and it did successfully bond. It's just, it damaged the product in the meantime. So, you know, that's not gonna be our best solution. So now I'm gonna give the iron a try using the synthetic setting. Okay, so I've turned my lunchbox inside out so I can get something to backfill this, so that way I can apply pressure to it. So now I have my lunchbox backfilled with a heat transfer pillow, and then I'm just gonna take my Easy Weed and place it on my fabric. I'm going to then cover it with my Teflon sheet and grab my iron that's been preheated to the synthetic option on there. So we want to just do some short bursts of heat. I'm going to make sure that I put it down and press it without moving it, and then I'm just going to double check every couple seconds to make sure that I'm not burning through my fabric. Until I feel like I've got a proper bond with my Easy Weed. So I may just want to do this 3 times and then just kind of go back and check. So I'm starting to see, by the 3rd time that I press, I am starting to see where my fabric's showing an imprint of the iron. So at that point I want to stop placing the iron on this fabric. So now I just want to double check my vinyl and see if it's adhered. So it looks like this part of my design has adhered. However, I'm seeing a few pieces at the end here that look like they haven't stuck completely. So with my iron, I didn't get quite an even pressure. I'm just gonna go back and cover up the area that did not stick and just add a little bit of pressure in that specific area to make sure that I've gotten a full bond on my vinyl. Okay, I'm just gonna double check and see if that did the trick. All right, and there we go. So I finally got it to adhere. I'm just gonna run my finger over it and do a little test to see that I did get a good bond everywhere. So here is the inside of my lunchbox result. I was able to get the Easy Weed to bond, and I didn't melt the plastic. However, I can see slight crease marks from where I used my iron. But I'm sure you could avoid that if you get a little more even pressure than what I was applying. I tended to press a little heavy towards the tip of the iron, which left this little triangular kind of tip mark. So I think it did an alright bond actually, and you know, this looks like you could use the iron on the synthetic setting as a method to apply heat transfer vinyl to your lunchbox. But I'm going to go ahead and test that Cricut Easy Press again and see if I can find a better setting for that. And then in the end I'm going to try the heat press as well. Okay, so I'm just going to take this monogram and apply this right here on the lid of this lunchbox and follow the same procedure as I did before and just apply this Teflon sheet over the lid of my lunchbox. Now my lunchbox has been turned inside out and I've got my Easy Press preheated to 270, and I'm just going to do short bursts on top of this lid until I feel like I've achieved a good bond with my Easy Weed. So I did 3-second bursts, and I did it twice, and I still notice where my plastic has melted when applying this heat transfer vinyl. It did adhere completely, so it did get a good bond. However, I do notice the wrinkling in my fabric still from it getting just a little too hot. So now I'm going to look at my press, and I'm just going to do a design by putting this on the corner of my press, and I do want to make sure I'm using a heat transfer pillow still, so that way the zippers and the seams have something to press into. And then I'm going to choose one of my designs, and place it on like so. Now I'm also going to be doing short bursts of heat with this because I still don't want to melt that plastic fabric, and it looks like no matter what I've done so far, it's been really heat sensitive and everything's been melting it. So let's give this a try and see what happens at 270 on our heat press. And we're just going to do a quick burst. And then I'm going to check it to see if that's melting through. And of course it already is showing signs of melting that fabric. Alright, so let me give you a closer view. You can see where when I clamped the press, it did indeed melt the liner a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take this Easy Weed and place it on the fabric side of a lunchbox. So my thought with this is it will have this fabric that won't actually melt like the inside of the lunchbox has. However, that fabric that's still heat sensitive is on the inside, and we don't want that heat to go all the way through our lunchbox and melt that inner core. So when doing this, I have stuffed my lunchbox with a heat transfer pillow. So now I'm going to jump back over to my press at 270 degrees and see if maybe that is the trick. So I've got my Teflon sheet, and then I'm just going to place this on the platen. Pull it off, and let's do a spot check. So I can already see where the heat tried to discolor the fabric a little bit. Check on the inside. Did I melt anything in there? It looks like it's good. It's not bubbling. Let me check on the bond of the Easy Weed. Alright, so it's bonded, but it's a very light bond, and it really needs to be pressed a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead and reapply some pressure and count again. Okay, so I got a successful bond with my Easy Weed using the heat press at 270, and I did 10-second bursts of heat, and I did that 3 times to make sure that I was getting enough heat applied for a long enough amount of time to allow that adhesive to go into the fibers of this fabric. And it looks like my Easy Weed applied well, and I don't see any discoloration of my fabric, and the most important thing is I don't see any bubbling or melting on the inside of my Lunchbox on that heat sensitive material. So I think the most successful way of applying heat transfer vinyl to a Lunchbox would be to apply it to the fabric surface on the exterior of your Lunchbox. Really, all the results we had with applying it on the inner linings resulted in a little bit of melting and inconsistency of applying the vinyl. Now I'm going to do one more test at the 210 degrees on the Cricut Easy Press using heat transfer vinyl on the lining, just to make sure I've tried all the tricks to get it to work. So I'm just stuffing that heat transfer pillow on the inside, covering this with a Teflon sheet, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the Easy Press and apply some pressure onto it once I get all those remnants off there. So I did that for 5 seconds, and I definitely still see where it's scorching the fabric at 210 degrees. Now let me see if it bonded. So it doesn't look like it bonded all the way. It bonded partially, but I still see where the fabric began to melt. So, you know, after doing these tests, it really would appear to me that putting heat transfer vinyl on your lining of your Lunchbox is a no-go. It's just not going to work because that fabric's too heat sensitive. Even at the lower temperature of the 210 degrees, I'm still not able to get a successful clean bond where the lining doesn't melt. Alright, so the second press I was able to get it to bond, but I'm still seeing wrinkly, melted fabric lining. Alright, so I'm going to bring these results a little closer just so you can review. So here we can see where we used the Cricut Easy Press, and it didn't have excellent results. You can see where the lining got wrinkled and melted, and that was only with short bursts of heat. It was at 335 the first press, and then I did it at 270 for the second press. Both melted. And then here is our result from our Easy Press using it at 210 degrees, which is the lowest heat setting. And you can see all these wrinkles in the fabric. And you can see where the vinyl bonded, but it doesn't look like it's all that great of a bond. It looks like I could probably sit here and scrape and peel and pull it off. And yes, here you can see I can peel it right off. So the Easy Press didn't work. The heat press worked, but you can see here where I have a corner mark from my press, and this was pressed at 270, and it looks like it melted all the way into my lining. So I mean, that's a good thing. I can't just peel it off like I did with the Easy Press, but I have to sit there and look at these scorch marks, and that was not a great result. In hindsight, if I was to do this method again, I would not clamp the press over it, but I would just stuff the lining and roll this on the press's top platen to get a smoother press. Here is the result with the iron, and the home iron did bond the material, but you can see here there is an iron mark up here at the top. So I wasn't able to 100% get away without scorching my lining still. So if you're wanting to put vinyl on the inside of your lunchbox, I wouldn't go through all the trouble of using this heat transfer vinyl because you're gonna run into all these results of melting your lining. Now, as far as the exterior of your lunchbox, I didn't have any problems at all with applying the heat transfer vinyl on with the heat press at 270 degrees. I just wanted to make sure that I had enough draft time to accommodate for that lower heat press temperature. And when I accommodated for that temperature, I want to make sure I'm doing it in the 10-second increments, so that way I'm not discoloring my fabric or melting the inside of my lunchbox, because that heat's going through those fibers and out this other side, and if it gets too hot, it's going to cause that dimpling and that wrinkling that we've seen in that other example. So if you want to personalize your lunchbox, go ahead and do it on the exterior. Do not do it on the interior, because that was really quite hard to get a good consistent result with the lining being that plastic material. So I also have a water bottle that I'd like to customize for my daughter for her back to school gear. So with the water bottle, I'm just going to use some of this StarCraft Magic Spectrum and create a decal to place on her plastic water bottle, so she'll have it customized and know it's hers. And my daughter's in love with unicorns, so of course I'm going to put this giant unicorn right on her bottle for her. So I've weeded away my design, so now I just need to get a transfer tape, put it on top of this, and transfer this design over to our water bottle. So keep on watching and you'll get to see how that's done. So I just want to make sure that I have a nice, clean, and prepared surface to add this vinyl to. And then I'm going to simply place my decal onto my water bottle and run a squeegee over it to make sure I've removed any air bubbles that might form. And then once I've made sure that this has been bonded everywhere, I'm just going to go ahead and peel away my transfer tape. And then now you have a custom personalized water bottle that your child is going to love to use on her back to school days. So I even personalized my daughter's pencil box. All I had to do was find a super smooth surface and place my permanent adhesive vinyl on it. So here you can see I personalized a unicorn for in the bottom of her pencil box because that was my smooth area of my box. All the rest of the plastic had a little bit of texture on it, so I wasn't able to put any vinyl on the textured side. But she'll be happy to see that little surprise in the bottom of her pencil box as she's sifting through her crayons and reveals that little magical unicorn hiding underneath the surface. So there's so many possibilities with what you can customize with all this back to school gear that kids are using today. I hope that you're able to find what's going to work best for you, and I hope these tips and this troubleshooting guide helps get you on your path to customizing and creating custom back to school supplies for your kiddos. I can't wait to see what you craft. See you guys around.